Alright, everybody, welcome back to another episode of No Man's Sky. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and don't forget to leave a comment and a like on the video down below. Let me know what you think. Today we're going to talk about what happens in No Man's Sky when you're broke. You want to buy that new ship, you don't have enough cash. What do, man? Do you cry about it? You don't do that. You sit down, put on your thinking cap and say, I'm going to go make me some money. So I'm going to show you my favorite technique for making money and this can start fairly early in the game. There's going to be two little things, and all it involves, either of these things involve is resources and the ability to travel from system to system. One of them requires access to a medium or better fabricator. Okay, so the first one, whoops, we didn't want to do that. First one, we're going to go right up to a base, one of the space stations, and I'll show you how we're going to do this and what it does. So let's fast travel on over to, let's try this one. And this is a very, very simple way to make money. And what we're going to do here, I'll tell you ahead of time while we're traveling, is we're going to crash the economy. Okay? And in doing so, we're going to make some money. So, how do we crash an economy? Well, let's take a look at what we've got on us here. We've got cobalt, right? We only got 12 of it, so that's not going to crash an economy. When you go to a system and you sell a massive amount of something, you will drive the value of that item down, crashing the economy for that item. And it only counts for you. It doesn't count for, like, if you're in a group with someone else, it's not going to crash the economy for your friend, or they can't crash the economy on you. It's only for yourself. So we got 12 cobalt there, but in my cargo space, I've got a full stack. So we're going to see what a full stack can do, right? Let's throw it in there. So we go to the trade terminal, we go to sell, and we look and see what's the value of cobalt. Right now, look at that, plus 8.3, so 10,000 cobalt is going to earn us 2 million units, just over 2 million units, which is good, but not great, right? So let's do it. Whoops, we didn't want to do that. Helps if you hit the right button, right? Okay, back at it. So we're going to sell these 10,000 pieces, earn $2 million. Now we're going to try to buy it back. Now look, the value has dropped, right? But now there is actually more cobalt to buy back. So in doing this, we're spending a little bit more money than we earned with only one stack. So it doesn't seem like a viable thing to do, but early on, all you need is a stack to really get yourself started. We'll buy it back. And as you can see now, we've got an extra few hundred cobalt. And you move on to the next system then. You saw the value went from 8 above to 2 under on its demand, which is great. That's a good start, right? So if you do this early game, or even, once you start to require more units, and I've got 600 million right now, or 700 million, whatever. It seems like a lot, but trust me, when you get to late game and you're buying living frigates, you're hiring them on for 1 billion units a pop, 600's nothing. So go to this next location. And there it is. We're selling for 2.1 million, right? It's done. Now we buy it back. 2.5 million. So we're losing 400,000. So you need a little money to start this off. But look, we've gained another 900, whatever, we've gained another 700 cobalt in the process. and the value went from what, 2 over to 8 under. So we still have like that 10-point differential, which is good, but not great. Excuse me. Moving on. Now, if you do this long enough, you can build up 5, 6, 7, 8 stacks. That's where you really see a difference when you get multiple stacks. You'll start to drop that. That difference will be several, 30%, 40%, and it goes up to approximately 80% of a dip. So when you have a ton of cobalt, this is what happens. And over time, and there's a lot of ways to get cobalt. I recommend, in the very beginning of the game, mine as much of it as you can. Buy it when you see it. Just kind of save it up and get yourself a stack, maybe 2. Let's see what 2 stacks does out of curiosity. Yeah, as you can see, I came prepared. In fact, this ship is strictly for trading cobalt. Kind of disgusting, right? All right. So let's look at what 2 does. So we sell it, and we're going to make 4 million off of it, right? Thank you very much. Now when we buy it back, it's costing us 4.1, but look at that, around about 20% difference, so it's really big. And the 4.1, we're buying back more than we had the first place, so, it's getting better, right? I'll throw this back on the starship. As you can see, now we've got 2,000. So little by little, you build up your cash this way, and that's a great way to earn units early game. Get the cobalt wherever you can. Go ahead and crash economies. Now we're going to go crash one more, but we're going to do it with the ship now, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you start to make large amounts of large amounts of units in one pop. This is probably one of the simplest, most rudimentary ways to use a basic resource to earn money. And cobalt works because cobalt is relatively easy to get, and everybody sells it. Now, you don't want to do this at other places because, you want to do this at the space stations. Other places may or may not sell it back, and if they're not selling it back, well, then you've pretty much screwed yourself, right? So we're going to go to our starship inventory and look at this. 179 million credits or units, right? 179 million. Boom. That number's just going to go up for a while. Look at that, almost 800 million credits. Now we got to buy it back, but look at the price drop. Negative 80% pretty much on the demand. That's huge. Now we can buy it back for 5, 10, 15, 20, and that puts it, over the limit of what I can buy back, because it won't go into the high density storage yet. So we got to do this. Takes a moment, but you do this a couple times, and in theory you could do this 5, 6 times and have close to 1 billion units, depending on where you start from. You could have more, Let's do this. Bye bye, bye bye. Now we'll go in. We'll buy the rest. I wish it went into the deep storage, but it doesn't. So whatever. 4 more. So far we spent back 20 million so far, roughly. Alright, let's see if we can buy back the rest. We're getting kind of full on that inventory there. Back to the starship. Nope, we can't. We'll do it like this then. Whoops. Let's go back in and we will just buy it into our own suit here. So approximately, what did we spend? 5 million 9 times. That's 45 million. Look at that. We're still at 748. We made it, 130 million roughly in profit. That's pretty sick. And that's one visit to the space station. And you can just go around, whoops, and do this over and over until you have the amount of money you want. I think the game caps off at approximately 4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. So, once you start getting high up there, there's no point in doing this anymore. But I keep that ship nice and full of cobalt in case I run low, like I did recently. I've been going out and capturing those whale vessels, those whale frigates, and hiring them, and they cost anywhere from 200 million for a Class C, 400 for a B, 700 for an A, and 1 billion for an S. I found one S, 1 or 2 A's, a few B's, and mostly C's, but still, that just depleted my money at an insane rate. It was crazy. All right. So we're not going to want this vessel anymore, right? Yep, it's all full. All right, cool. Now we can put our stack, put our stack back into our high capacity. I always keep that on hand. This is what we're going to need for the next trick, by the way, oxygen. But we'll get to that in a second. I have a different ship I want to bring down for this. There we go. This guy has some oxygen built up on him. What might that be for? Well, we're going to go find out. But to do that, we're going to need a fabricator. And this is where it gets a little more advanced. You need the medium fabricator, which can combine 2 elements, or better. The large fabricator works as well, which can combine up to 3, but it works just perfectly well for 2. So let's get back to the ship here. And we're going to head down into our little industrial area. And we've got our little refiner. So let's take a look at chlorine for a second. Chlorine is worth 602 units per piece of chlorine, whereas cobalt is worth around 200. So that's 3 times the value. Look at that. A stack is 500,000. Stack of this, 6 million. Oh wait, that's not a full stack, I'm sorry. A stack of this is, I was like, that's not right. A stack of this is 2 million, so it's about 3 times the amount, right? 6 million just for a stack. But chlorine isn't as easy to get a hold of as cobalt, and not everybody stocks it, so you can't do that, sell it all, and buy it back plus more and gradually build up your chlorine level like that. It just doesn't work. But what you can do is get your trusty little ship with some oxygen on it here. Let's get some oxygen. And we're going to put it in here, okay? So chlorine, if we refine it down, it refines to salt at a 1-to-2 ratio. If we put oxygen in there, a 1-to-6 ratio. And all it's going to take is 2 oxygen. So 2 stacks of oxygen, which are only worth 400 grand a pop, 34 units apiece, will turn into 60,000 chlorine, right? These are worth 6 apiece, 6 million, so that's 36 million right there. Now granted, this is a different type of thing. This is something that you want to do every now and then. You're on your ship, you're doing some building, say, all right, you know what, I'm going to start up some chlorine and go about my business and work and do what I have to do, pick it up and start to store it. But it is a huge, huge commodity. I think I've got more in one of my... Yeah, there we go. So we will start up 2 of these. Plus 2 is better. And let it roll. As you see, it only takes 5 minutes to make 4,000 of them. But how many thousands are we going to make? We're going to be making 60,000. So it's going to take some time. So this is something, like I said, you want to do it when you got the time to kill. You're just screwing around with your base, or you're, you know, maybe you're decorating, maybe you're, whatever. Be careful when you're doing stuff like this, especially on a freighter. I've had some wonky things happen with refiners if I've left the freighter and returned, or if I've hyper jumped with the freighter. You know, there's been some weird wonky stuff going on, so you don't want to lose all that chlorine. As you can see, let's get it to where we can see it. Yeah, it's at like 36% done for that initial batch, which is great. So doing this will recover, like you can keep your original stack of 10,000, you know, 9,999, and then have 5 stacks to sell at 6,000. It's 30 million units just like that. That's a good way to do it if you happen to get a hold of a little chlorine early in the game, and oxygen is fairly easy to come by. You know, it's everywhere pretty much. You can buy it at the space stations and off traders and whatnot. Chlorine sometimes you can find there too. You can buy that up, because remember, you might say, oh well, chlorine's kind of expensive. Yeah, but for every piece you buy, you are getting 6 back, so you're going to get a 6 times return on that investment, which is fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and let this stuff process, and I'll come back and show you what our total is at the end. Processed all that chlorine and that we can so far, using all the oxygen that we had on us. What did we come up with? Well, in the end, we came up with 4 stacks plus almost a fifth, and we replaced the 2 stacks that we had originally. So there you go. More oxygen's better. The more oxygen, the better. Now, if you notice, I mean, theoretically, you could do this with 1 piece of chlorine and a million pieces of oxygen and just keep grinding it through and through. But in any case, I do have an oxygen farm. I'm going to probably expand the scope of how much it collects, because I don't need oxygen that much at this point in the game. I've got plenty of it, but an oxygen farm is nice. And I have been looking for a chlorine farm. If I can find a chlorine farm, that'll be fantastic, because then I could just go in there and get that chlorine automatically mining, you know, for itself, and just make tens and tens of thousands of it, and eventually, you know, every time it fills up, just take it, put it on a ship like I did with the cobalt, fill up another ship, and there's a quick stash of money. I could probably get rid of the cobalt ship then, because it really won't be as necessary. You know, if you think about it, you know, I had what, 48 stacks, 48, and then I think there's 42 in the deep storage of the cobalt, so that's 90 stacks. That's a lot. It's like 5, that's a lot. Think about it, 6 million times 90, yeah, 6 nines are 54. Do the math. That's a lot of money. All right, so let's trade in all of our chlorine. It's all on the starship that we're going to sell. So right there, 37 million. Not nearly what we had from moving the cobalt, but it's a one-shot deal, and it's an easy way to make money early in the game. So chlorine's good. I mean, not early. That one's a little more mid-game, I think, you know. But a chlorine base is the way to go for that. Definitely the most efficient, but using a refiner, that's a good option too, especially if you have a little bit of extra oxygen early on, and you know, you got your chlorine, you got some chlorine, and you just want to make a little bit more and make enough money to buy that ship you need or something like that. That's a good way to do it. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, everyone. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. If you found this useful in any way, shape, or form, leave it down in the comments. Let me know what your preferred early game money making technique is. There's a lot of ways to make money in this game, and there are several forms of currency, as we can see up here. You got your units, you got your nanites, and you got your quicksilver. We will do a video on earning nanites at a later date, and eventually one on quicksilver, although there's really only one option with that. There won't really be much of a video. Maybe we'll roll it in with the nanite video and let those two play together, you know, or go over both of them at the same time. But look at that. We're almost up to 800 million units again. We were, you know, a little over 6. While the chlorine was processing, I had a little dinner and relaxed a little bit and just kind of came back here and there and boop, boop, you know, made it happen. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me as always. Goodbye.